We don't describe anything we do on this site as a festival.
Hi, welcome to the UK Festival podcast. It's Tim and I'm on the road to the secret garden party site at horrible o'clock in the morning. So, I've just arrived at the secret garden party site where I've been told to get into this gator by Freddie.
These are our grain stores and sometimes our music video studios. That's where we filmed Ren at Money Games Part 3, produced that video. They're very excitable, the rabbit hole groups and the renegades. They're a very, very keen and eagle-eyed lot. Right, swing in here and have a look.
Oh my days, this is gorgeous as well.
So yeah,
this
is now the night we actually were filming in here yesterday.
Oh, this has been brilliant so far. Thanks, Freddie.
This folds up into a 40-foot shipping container.
And you shipped it? Did you ship it to the Burning Man in the States?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It's been to 4. It was a feature at 4 Burning Mans, and so in order that you don't pay port duty and stuff on it, you have to ship it in and out to the country. Having done a camp there for about 10 years. And we sort of did big builds of basically a nightclub every time.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the point of realising that actually wasn't sustainable, and it was much more self-sufficient, which is their whole point, of just having our own pub and just having something that didn't take a large crew to build and was really simple and really different to what everyone else was doing, because everyone else wants to build a big sound camp, a nightclub or a art car. And an actual just a social space where there was no dance music until once the burn had happened on Saturday night, all bets were off and it was gloves off time. But it was actually we didn't realise it was actually quite a radical design to come up with just a pub where you could sit down and listen to everything from the Pixies or Elliott Smith or whatever it was and have a proper pint.
Yeah, I suppose you're taking a little bit of England to the desert.
Well, that was one of the inspirations, because if you've ever been to anywhere in America and seen what they think a pub is, the closest they get is some version of an Irish themed pub, which are such different creatures to a really grimy English boozer, sort of like the Slaughtered Lamb or something like that. So how do you want to?
Well, I mean, do we have any chairs or seating options? We've got those logs.
This is actually where the Prize Cop pub normally sits. Which is why you've got concrete pads.
So I can't remember it from the last time. To be honest, the last time I came to the secret garden party, I was quite out of it.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, I was having a very nice time. Well, for some of it. Some of the time I ate too many interesting cakes, let's put it that way.
Do you know what, funnily enough, my cleaner, firstly, lovely local woman who we know, great friends with her husband, and she helps out in the Prize Cop pub with us and stuff. I saw her on Sunday morning, and she's like, "Your welfare tent's amazing. It's the best I've ever seen." I was like, "Tracy, why the fuck do you know what the inside of our welfare cake?" She's like, "Yeah, I had too many space cakes last night and it all went a bit woo." So,
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, exactly. No, you were in grand company.
Kind of chaotic.
Don't worry, it's... we started doing this in, 2003, which was I was 25, so we were, you haven't seen chaotic until you've seen a bunch of 25-year-olds try and put a festival on.
So, I have a whole list of questions I've made an effort to prepare.
Yep, I saw them, thank you.
I'm glad you've had a look through them beforehand, because it tends to make things easier.
There were a couple of questions where I had to rack my brain and try and remember the answer to them. It was things like, what was the first festival you went to? So I remember I had to check the dates of 2 different festivals, and it turns out it was actually Phoenix Festival in 95 or 96. Because I remember the lineup and who I saw. I remember seeing Eat Static, but I also remember seeing the Sex Pistols. So and Neil Young. So it was that was quite a mix. So it was just at the end of about the end of school and beginning of art college. And the next one was jumping the fence into Glastonbury, and not really realising what we'd signed up for. But you know, in return for a lift, we'd agreed to help the women who had a car to carry their bags over. You know, we didn't really understand the whole deal with jumping the fence. So I think we commando crawled about half a mile towards the fence before we got to it, before realising that no one cares at that point. I had a rug and a loaf of bread and the consumables I needed for the weekend. So you know, we were travelling pretty light. We got over the other side. We helped them set up the tent. Saw them open up their bags, and it literally was full of makeup and all the rest. They got doled up to go down and dance, and me and my mate sat down and ate all the stuff that wasn't the loaf of bread in our bags. And the sun comes up, and we're looking down the hill, and we realised these odd-shaped structures, sort of slightly further down the hill, was the fence that had been knocked down and turned into structures. So we'd actually walked the whole way through a fence, paid someone 20 quid to get through a hole in the fence, walked all the way across site and come out the other side of the site and set up outside the festival. But that was kind of what it was like before, Melvin Ben got involved in 2000 and whatever it was. It's a hard one, I find, to explain to our guests or other people about why this is important, and I've ended up with one analogy, because you're talking about a we'll use LiveNation. It's a large company. It's an apex predator, and it does what apex predators do, and you can't blame a shark for being a shark. But what I think is worth people realizing is that's what it is. Now I've seen the best lineup ever at Leeds or Reading. Where it was White Stripes, Pulp, The Strokes, Jane's Addiction, The Breeders, Mouldy Peaches, and there was another one. I mean, it was literally the best fucking the day you could ever hope for. Now that's something you're not going to see an independent festival like ours or anyone else be able to produce, and that has its place. But when you have companies like that who control the venues, the ticketing, they're buying up half the festival market. They're buying up the power companies that we all use. They're buying up the event insurers we all use. That's not good. And as we had one of the organisers of Truth Tribe, who are actually a collective who are taking over the amphitheatre just over there. And we did a little camera interview with him as we were driving him back to the station, and he just had an open question to LiveNation, which was, how long do you think you can control fun? And I think we first had our eyes open to it in 2022, when we had an amazing run of artists that really wanted to play our festival, and about 4 in a row. One fairly large, and then 3 that really weren't large at all. They were tiny. They would be, they were about, acts that would be about £1,000, and so therefore on our lineup fairly low. On a LiveNation event, very, very low. Barely even on a poster. Yeah. And they were being blocked by them. And eventually, I got on a call with an agent who I obviously can't name, and I just said, look, what's going on here? We've sold all our tickets, we're not announcing this artist, so why are we being blocked for this? It's not going to affect their sales. And she said, you don't get this, do you? And I was like, no, I don't. She goes, it's got nothing to do with this year. It's like, they just want you to fail. They don't want you back. They don't want you in the market. And that's what's going on. And that was a bit of a, moment for us. As I said, you're dealing with an apex predator. You're dealing with a shark, and sharks do what sharks do. They hunt, they kill, they eat. And with Roots, we're going back to an intimate and more, and a size where we can be more outlaw and renegade.
So how many people are you hoping to have?
We will top out at. We'll call sellout before we hit 10,000. Where we get to in that region, it's very hard to tell. The market has changed so much. People's buying patterns have changed so much. By now, we used to be able to look at our sales data and literally get a ruler out and follow a line and go, that's where sales will be by the time we open our gates. Now, you've got so much going on. From our side, all our costs have gone up. People won't quote for delivery because they don't know the fuel price until the day. Then you've got cost of living for all your guests, and so they don't have the disposable income or that. People know that festivals aren't selling out, so they can make this decision at the last minute.
You can buy on the gate nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's really squeaky bum stuff for promoters when when you've got 7-figure budgets, and even if you're a 4,000, 5,000 size event, it's over £1 million that you're talking about, and if you don't know what whether people are going to be buying in the last week, that's a big fucking gamble. And we're lucky here because we are at least on our own land, and we've got our own infrastructure here. We've been over the 20 years we've been doing this, we have permanent roadways in, we have drainage. We're not worried about a wet year and car parks getting muddy because we've got all that covered. We've been through those nightmares and we've solved them. And push comes to shove, even if there's a deluge, we've got 8 tractors sitting in the yard that can help us get people in and out and
get all your crew in.
Yeah, and all of that. So even with all that support and infrastructure that we have, it's scary times. But at the end of the day, we're not, we aren't doing this to be in the same game as LiveNation or whomever, Superstruct. This isn't about being an apex predator and making loads of money. This is about doing something we believe in, and in some ways that's rather rallied us, I think, the threats of this year and why we've done the drop the headliner and have been talking about how it's supporting the grassroots of the industry, is because this is something I believe is really important culturally to have.
Yeah, so drop the headliner, that seems like quite a big risk.
It was a combination of several things, and then the phrase drop a headliner has come from Chai Wallers, and because we've had a long-standing relationship with them, and I've got a huge love and respect for what they do. And I was talking with Sai, who's basically the main man of it, in a boozer in Soho about possibly 11, 12 months ago, and we were talking about this and the state of the industry, and this idea came about because first of all we could see the way things were going, that actually taking big risks wasn't going to be tenable for an independent, and there was a certain amount of hunkering down and doing what you do best and just keeping to that. And so we know what we do best in terms of this, and it is about grassroots creativity and having that raw element of counterculture. And I had always liked the idea of getting rid of the main stage as a radical thing, because actually, whilst we've had some amazing, such eclectic bands play on there, everyone from Tim Minchin's first ever sort of festival performance was with us, to this wonderful outfit called the Palast Orchestra, which is a German outfit, sort of massive Weimar Republic sort of 1920s outfit. And this really, that was really fun because we were never perceived to be about the music. So actually we could be more about the music than, say, a festival like Truck Festival, which was always had to be very current on a certain theme.
Yeah.
Whereas we could look at all the acts out there and just go, we can book anyone. And that was always really exciting. But it got, we could see the point where actually trying to sell your event off someone else's brand, which is what, it's what people are doing and hunkering down now. And I get that, because when you're nervous in the market, you're not going to take any chances. Anyway, we put this out to agents, and I sent the circular email round me explaining my ideas and what we were doing, and the response that came back was massive. And it was sort of describe it as that moment when you realise that you're the most attractive person in the room, and so your standards suddenly go up, and you realise that actually, wow, we've really got such a choice, such a menu to choose from of amazing artists that this is really exciting, because no one else was booking these artists, no one else was giving them this platform. And so I think you did send through your questions earlier, and you said, and I think one of them was, who am I most excited about seeing? For the first time, I think in ever, I love playing music, and quite often I do a set on the Pagoda with friends, and all sorts of other places, and I've had to sort of say I don't really want to DJ anywhere this year, because all I want to be is in front of the Wild Things stage watching every single band we've got on, because I genuinely, and this is no hyperbole, every single act we've got I'm really excited about, from the first on Thursday and Fridays to the last on.
So one thing I wonder, do you ever have much like conflict between your own tastes and what you like to book, what you feel like you should book?
No, not really. I think we get, because I don't book everything, there's certainly, we have collectives who book stuff that I wouldn't. That doesn't mean to say it's a conflict with my taste, but, you can't be over everything.
No.
But you like, you love and trust these collectives, and you have a real relationship with them, and so you let them do what they want. I mean, actually, in the Prize Cock pub, the Burning Man pub we had, there is a sign up there that says no psytrance, no dubstep, no Coldplay, by order of the management. Now that was very much as a response of, if anyone's watching this has been to Burning Man in Nevada, it's not known for its standard of music, and the style of dubstep there is pretty fucking horrible. If I could be so bold as to just make a sweeping statement like that, but that's that doesn't actually mean that we don't, we hate dubstep. In fact, we've got, Dubtendo, we're really proud to be partnering with and doing stuff with them. And, they're a wonderful fucking outfit who I trust 100% to smash it out of the park. So, no, we don't. There isn't really a conflict.
So you wouldn't book someone who you think would be great for the festival, like yourself, who you think would be great, but you personally don't enjoy?
I don't know, I can't really think of an example of that, and this sounds really reductionist, but there's only two types of music. It's either good or it's bad, and or as a friend of mine says, it's either country or it's western, but that's another thing. But no, I mean, genuinely, I don't think we've ever been in that situation of thinking there's an act that our audience will really love that we think stinks to high heaven. Thank God, because I think if you do get to that point, then you've got to hang your boots up and retire.
Maybe start doing a different festival.
Yeah, or a different job.
Yeah. So how did you get into putting parties on in the first place?
I was just out of university, art college, and desperately trying to sort of avoid, I suppose, a real job, and having an art degree doesn't really furnish you for a real job anyway. And a friend of mine was doing some work. It's a sunny day, and we get proper power bikers. It's a really fun road for them to go down, and so when it's a dry day, I mean, that doesn't sound like the biggest we ever hear, but you get some real screamers coming past. But yeah, no, a friend of mine had started working for Red Bull. This is like 2002, 1-2.
Just before they started doing sports stuff.
They were just launching in England, and I think they were doing a little bit, but they were really ahead of their time in how they did sort of experiential marketing and what have you. And so my friend had converted with their money an old Czechoslovakian troop carrier that had hydraulics on it, so the roof would come up, two top speakers would be there, the DJ decks were there, and the panel came down, and the bass bins were there, and there was a generator in it, and it was literally plug and play. And so we would go around, we were sent around the country to talk to landowners who would allow a party on their land. So there wasn't licensed, so it's semi-legal or illegal. No, it's never about being a spectator. So we didn't want to call it a festival because that seemed a loaded word. And so I, was like, well, why don't we call it a garden party? Because, it's kind of kooky. That's what it is. Anyway, so in 2003 we did that. And then we set up office in Westbourne Studios to do his production, brand, whatever company. I didn't really understand what the company was supposed to be. And we've been working together a couple of months, and my friend came in one morning and he just said, I can't work with you anymore, you're a fucking nightmare. I just literally, this is it. He goes, I'm keeping the company, you keep the event. I'm a bit, bit shocked. And he goes, but you can't call it the garden party. Fuming about that. Anyway, it was, I think about a week later, and I'm a bit of a geek sometimes, I quite like listening to Radio 4 even when I was, in my early 20s, and some mention of the Secret Garden book came on, and I was just suddenly the light bulb went on, and I was like, not only is it a perfect name, but it's a real fuck you to my mate who tells me I can't call it the garden party. So that was, that was sort of really what gave birth to it, I suppose, as I carried on doing it out of, I suppose, spite for being kicked out of a company, but then also had sort of started developing a bit of an idea about what made a good party, and that it wasn't about the headliner or some fireworks show or whatever. It was actually about the people you'd met and those interactions, and those were the sort of the nights that burned bright in your memory. And so, as someone who wasn't, naturally very social or was, quite shy, I'd always got involved in doing parties because then you've got something to do. It sort of breaks down the barriers. Yeah. And so that was how then all the idea of putting toys out for people to play with and props that people interact with. And so, I think the first thing we had the door, which was just led to nowhere, and that people would have fun with that for hours. We had someone turned up the first year with a wheelchair, not because they needed one, but for fun, and started throwing themselves and each other down the banks on it, and that's how our sort of what was rather tastelessly called the Suicide Sports Club came about. And then before long we've got tractor tyres and putting people inside it, and then human 10-pin bowling, which was you and a tractor tyre and a whole load of oil drums, and seeing how many your mates could knock down by rolling you down in it, and all that sort of stuff.
Did you have any injuries?
Yeah, we did. We've certainly snapped a few arms and ankles, and there's been some sprains, contusions, and what have you. But very wonderfully, the first time anyone has turned round and said, actually, we think we'd like to sue you for something, rather than going, don't worry, I totally deserve to break my arm for what I was doing, was actually once we'd started, really keeping a logbook of all incidents. And it had come in about 3 years after the event, and it was someone who had been climbing the security fence by the pagoda, and been politely asked by the security, like, can you please get down, and had tried to do a backflip off the fence, and had fallen and had hurt and bruised, I think his vertebrae, on a bit of a tree stump or what have you. And we were able, so luckily we've never, that's the closest we've got to ever getting in trouble for encouraging people to do stupid things.
All these people who could sue you didn't, and the one person who had no case at all absolutely tried.
I suppose there's something to take from that.
Yeah. Honor system, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Quick glance at my questions. So, how is the party like? Because I know you've had a big break between.
Yeah.
So how did the party change from its early years into its form before you had the break? Like, what were the big changes you had to make?
I don't think we made any big changes. It just evolved. And because we'd sort of, I think, opened up the doors to anything, literally, like, you want to try and recreate your final art project in a field because it would look good in a field, to you want to create a mud wrestling pit, or you want to have, enjoy your own funeral camp. I mean, there's been such a wide range. I mean, we literally, I think because we sort of, put up this lightning rod for all this lunacy, it did just evolve. So there was this sort of rather steep explosion in numbers. We went from 5,000 to sort of like then 7,000, then 11,000, and it just kept rising until we got to probably a number I shouldn't say because we were over our license, where we went for, that's actually...
What was your license?
32,500 people, and I think originally it was rather sneaky because that was ticket holders. So yeah.
So how many crew did you have on site?
I couldn't possibly estimate that. But we did have a year where there was under I think those terms there was over 40,000, and we were like, actually, this is a bit hairy. This is, the site can't really hold this, and if you have wet weather, then it really can't, because obviously, when it's dry, everyone walks everywhere. When it's wet, everyone starts narrowing down into pathways, and it gets hellish. So
a wet boomtown or a wet download.
Yeah. Well, God, put in Mackley Bowl. It's the clues in the name. We're sort of kind of lucky here. It's the driest part of England.
Big up East Anglia.
Yeah, it does literally have the same. My dad loves saying this as a farmer. He goes, this has a similar rainfall per annum to Beirut. Which, I mean, why you chose Beirut, I don't know. It's a wonderful town, but it's it is really dry here. But we are on clay soil, so if it does rain, it does get really sticky really quickly. There are other really lucky festivals like Red Rooster that are on sand and chalk.
Yeah.
So if it rains there, it just drains away straight away.
No, I've often thought there's an AOMB where I'm from in East Suffolk, which is all on like shale.
Yeah.
And you can't have any festivals there because of the AOMB. But
yeah,
it's such a
perfect
site.
No, absolutely. And then you have places like Glastonbury where the same thing. There, the geology there is just like, it rains a little bit and you mess that ground up, and that's it. It's mud for the rest of the year.
Yep. Worst site possible for a festival. I don't know why they're all out west. It's terrible planning.
Oh, it's because there's lovely people out west.
Yeah, that's true. So, for someone who hasn't been to the SGP, how would you suggest they treat themselves to it? What would you give them? Any tips?
Just get involved and explore. We used to say throw away your phone, throw away the program, and just go out there and explore. And I think, people, now phones are we're all joined to the hip with them. You can't really expect someone to throw away their phone. You could maybe ask them to turn it on aeroplane mode. Well, it's your camera as well, and they're really good cameras. But yeah, literally just close your eyes, stick a pin in the map, and get involved.
So you've convinced a large number of Ren fans to come.
Well,
basically, yeah.
A large number of Ren fans have been, have convinced themselves, because they are super sleuths. They comb the internet and they put together clues, and
they're very dedicated, aren't they?
They are very dedicated. I like it when the interviewer is the one who hasn't put their phone on silent.
Yeah, I know. It keeps happening to me. Oh God, this is the third time. Oh wow. Yeah, no, the Ren fans, some of them are flying over from the States.
I know,
it's
yeah.
So exciting.
It is incredibly exciting. He is, we were very privileged to work with him as producers on his Money Games Part 3 video. Had their whole crew staying in our house for 10 days. That was a real privilege, and I do think he's one of the, possibly, dare I say, one of the most important artists of our generation. I am a bit gooey about how his skills and his talent.
Almost a secret headliner.
I couldn't possibly confirm or deny or even corroborate or comment on that. No. We haven't got a secret headliner. We've got a secret show. That much I can say. It's much more than a headline act.
All right. So SGP's fireworks, right? they're often a headliner in their own right.
They are, yeah.
Like, can you tell us what goes into planning and executing such a spectacular show? Like, how much do you usually spend on them? How long do you spend?
Well,
planning
first of
them?
all, I think it's important to say it's not just fireworks. It is a spectacle, and it's has been for. It started off as fireworks, and then we'd burn. You know, when we used to do a sculpture in the middle of the lake, we'd burn that, and that would be the spectacle. And then gradually, it has transformed to something that has a strong narrative that incorporates all sorts of different media, from the audio and the visual, the screens. Last year we were the first festival to have drones, which was explored the narrative that we had last year about sort of hope in a world that was seemingly a bit hopeless, and so a lot goes into it. So I mean, literally me and the sound designer had a long creative on it yesterday, and so we come up with a narrative. We work out the different elements that we're going to incorporate in it, and the fireworks are almost a shrinking part in terms of the time they take up of it, and we also then have an amazing visual designer who is, I mean, the partnership there is awesome, because when we give him the narrative and some of the visual cue points that we want, what he then creates, it's like he's looked inside my head and gone, whoomp, that's exactly what we have. So it's a really involved process that normally involves about 3 or 4 different creatives all working together to one strong narrative.
So you're doing multiple events this year, aren't you?
We are. Well, we've got a beautiful event site, and we host all sorts of things. Everything from farming shows to there's a wedding this weekend.
But I mean multiple secret garden parties.
Well, we've got a family camping. We're opening up the site for a sort of family and wellness week of camping with a weekend, a bit more entertainment going on over the weekend, but essentially a chance to sort of run feral on the site without there being, as you say, thousands of, dare I say, hippies in the field. And then we've also got a secret party at the end of the summer, which is a secret.
So the family camping, right? Is that a festival as such, or is it not quite? Would you describe it as such?
We don't describe anything we do on this site as a festival.
Of course.
No, it's, as I said, it's a chance that there's all sorts of content and entertainment and stuff to do with kids, but it is, it's a chance to go feral in the countryside, with help. It's so hot, actually. I'm going to take my.
So over the weekend of the festival, if everything's going all right, do you have any particular jobs that you still find yourself having to do, or have you got to the point where you're mostly free now?
Well, as you say, it depends how well the festival's going. No, because I don't have a job over the festival. My job is to be available if all the processes and action plans start falling apart, or if things if there are action plans that get triggered due to unforeseen events. So generally, other than talking to lovely journalists and checking everything out and seeing how everything works and fits together, on a good year, no, I don't have a job to do. But having said that, my job this year will be doing the DJing in between the bands on the Wild Things, because, as I said, I don't want to be anywhere else, and it's such a tightly curated and lineup this year, and there's some points in it where there's really strong narratives, that being a bit of a control freak about that part of it and the narratives, I want to make sure the music, even the music in between the acts, is absolutely on point. Yeah.
Are you going to MC it as well, or?
No, I'm not. That's not my forte. I don't like being out front and sort of, putting myself in the public eye on that. I like sort of hiding in the shadows a little bit. As I said, I'm a little bit shy. You wouldn't believe it.
So I guess when the festival's going well, you get to experience quite a lot of it nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, that said, it's quite hard to see some of the things that go on after 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. because to be honest, it's, you know, when you've got to be up for the meetings, you know, you have twice daily check-in meetings with all the different heads of departments just to make sure that everything's going on. And you know, you can't, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm in my 40s now, and surviving after a long build on 3 hours sleep or whatever is just not something I can do. So
not sustainable.
It has been a while since I've seen a sunrise at the garden party, possibly. 2017, I think, was the last one.
I would have thought that maybe it's the Monday sunrise that you could see.
Maybe.
Though also teardown's important.
But I mean, I have to say that's the teardown is important, but it's we do swap crews over so that because most of the department heads are working flat out over the weekend, and to expect things to go smoothly when people are tired and on short amount of sleep, you know, is silly. So we do a swap over and make sure that we're not using totally the same crew for both jobs.
So do you miss the early days of the festival when it was a bit more chaotic?
Yes and no. I mean, it was, you know, there was a wild excitement of suddenly realizing that you'd sort of harnessed a comet almost that was, you know, who knows where it was going to fly off to. But at the same time, it was really hectic and it was really hard work, and it was, you know, everyone was doing 3 different jobs and also partying their asses off and not getting any sleep. And that's, you know, even when you're in your early 20s, that gets, you know, that is quite draining. And I do remember this sort of, you know, the weeks after the garden party of just being, you know, like a husk, literally. Because, you know, you'd then have to do the breakdown yourself and go through all of that because, you know, you didn't have any crew.
All the crew, all the volunteers.
No, you were, you know, people with the site manager, the production manager, the ops manager, all in one, and then they were also helping. You know, we were all carrying staging in and out ourselves, and you know, I mean, things got easier when we worked out that running the bar ourselves was probably not a good idea. I think it was when I saw my younger brother hand over a hot case of beer to someone for free, going, "Don't worry, Fred would want this, to have this," and I was a bit like, "Yeah, not really, actually." Well, you know, it's
that's a big cut into your margin.
Well, it never. Yeah, but you know what? When we started, that was never. As I said, you know, it was. It took us a long time to work out things that were really apparent to people who ran festivals. Like actually, you know, the bar was quite an important area of revenue, and you didn't have to charge a huge amount for your beer for it to be a significant part. You just had to have an operator that was slick. You know, we were coming at it from a fairly gonzo angle, so it took us a while to realize that, you know, that some of these things were actually really important being grown up about and taken seriously. But you know, ever since then we have always tried to pride ourselves on being the cheapest pint, which most of the time we've managed to achieve.
So what's your point coming in at this year? Have you got it confirmed?
I knew you were going to ask that. Well, so this year we're taking a slightly different approach, and we're partnering with People's Captain, who are a really amazing beer company who support, it's all about mental health. And it's the idea that the founder was in a really bad place, and I think in his own words, he wouldn't mind me saying this, was about to take a permanent solution to a temporary problem, as it's called. And his friend asked him for a pint of beer, and he sat down and he told his friend, actually, I'm in a really, really dark place, and it saved his life. And so we started up this beer company with that in mind. And so we've, you know, with this such a wonderful story, and there's such a wonderful bunch of people, we were like, okay, this fits perfectly for us. And we've actually also taken a very different approach to bars this year, and we're allowing a lot of our sort of content providers, you know, third-party content providers, to run their own bar, so that they've got a bit of skin in the game, and so they get to make some money. And so we're actually not this year. We don't have a line in for bar income in our budgets. We've just gone, do you know what? Let's go back to the old days and let's keep this really diverse and different, and you know, and allow everyone else to to sort of operate and feed as well in that way. Yeah, the other one that blew my mind, and this was in our tech cruise view, really down to a company that we've been dealing with for years being taken over by a larger company who then weren't doing the checks and were doing much more of a conveyor belt system rather than a personal service, which was our main stage sound system. Actually went down and broke. One of the stacks was going down, was resetting itself every, and every sort of 10 minutes or whatever. And so we had this sudden situation where, our headline and later acts wouldn't go on quite rightly with a faulty sound system because they'd sound awful. And so we had to replace the sound system on the Sunday, which meant that a wonderful orchestra that had been preparing for, all summer for this couldn't play. I mean, there was real tears that day backstage. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people since then. One of my best friends who is one of the instrumental people in helping me start the garden party, is now production manager of Burning Man, has been for the last 8 years. Spoke to him, spoke to another friend of mine who started Glade Festival and runs Bazik down in South Africa, and I asked them all the same question. I said, have you ever heard of a main stage system breaking and going down? And they're just like, no, it doesn't happen. And because it's one of those bits of kit you don't have a backup. You have a backup of generators, you have a backup of wedges on the stage, backline and DJ equipment and all of that, but your main line array system on a main stage, no, it works because it's been checked within an nth of its life before.
The company that provides that's the reason to exist.
I mean, indeed, and you could say this about all of this. But, at the end of the day, we're the face of it. We're the people who put on the party, and so we have to, if you'll pardon the phrase, eat the shit afterwards. So we were quite proud. After that, we actually started our own compost loo stock and company in partnership with another company. And so it was really nice to hear afterwards on socials that it was something like the loos were the headliners, best festival loos and things like that, which because we do care about shit like that, or we care about shit as well.
That's
and the loos affect everyone. We get that, but at the same time, it was an interesting 122 because it was almost a game of two halves for me. Because I knew that was going on, but I have never seen the vibe on some of the dance floors that I saw, and Sunday was one of the best days that we ever had. Just in terms of just the enthusiasm and the drive of the crowd was just amazing. So it's interesting, but obviously, say these do affect everyone, and that was a big ball for us and our supplier to drop.
So yeah, on 22, I was having an explore late at night, and to be honest, I kept running into house.
Yep.
I don't know if that was meant to happen, or if it was just me getting, well, for me, unlucky. But
well, I mean, you did admit that there was far too many cakes involved, and actually, because I was thinking about that as I was driving up, because I know the one thing I know that we realised halfway through, and funny enough, we co-opted our dodgems into being a drum and bass stage.
That was very popular.
Which was incredibly popular, and the radio moved on a dime to start filling that void, because I think that was one part of the programme we didn't get. But I remember actually on Saturday night, Tintin of ancient rave fame was playing in here, and the programming was done by Ed Carney of The Drop, and it was some of the most blistering hard techno we've ever had. So I think there was diversity, but I think you're right that possibly if you're just stumbling around, there was maybe more house than we would normally have had.
Okay. I guess house was it was in a big wave. It kind of has been on a big wave for the last 10 years.
And I think, like I say, when you deal with, when you work with collectives and other groups, and you aren't, we're not sitting here going, we need to cover every demographic. We're working with the different demographics via different collectives and different, you know, creative groups. And that's where the sort of diversity across what we do comes from. Now, if suddenly everyone decides they all like jazz or house or whatever, then, you know, by the nature of the fact that we don't micromanage and control everything, then I suppose that could happen. But I think we're pretty confident this year that, you know, we've got everything from, you know, some blistering house to amazing techno to some unbelievable bass culture, and drum and bass and, you know, dub, tendo, obviously, to mention them again, because I'm rather in love with Kirk and his crew. They're just so fucking outlaw, it's brilliant.
It sounds like they've turned you onto dubstep.
I wouldn't go so far, but maybe they have. I'm still emotionally damaged by, you know, years of Burning Man. I have to say, you know, I'm still in rehab for that. So they might get me out. Ask me again on Saturday.
So, do you think that the Secret Garden Party played a big role in the wave of like boutique festivals that stormed the UK in the early like 2000s, like 20% and 2010s? Like, do you think you led the way on that, or?
I mean, I think you'd have to ask them that, really. I mean, I always felt we were more lucky in that we were there at a time when it just seemed a glaringly obvious thing that was missing from outdoor events was this sort of amalgamation of free party spirit, live music, because everything was kicking off then. Like, live music suddenly got really exciting in the early noughties again, or late 90s, in a really vital way that wasn't like Britpop, which was, you know, again, really exciting, but it didn't have that immediacy of something like the Libertines and what have you, and the Kills and all these really, really cool things that just suddenly exploded. And so it just seemed to be a very, at least to us, a very obvious thing that all these things were, you know, had to come together. And because we were, you know, we were the core audience in our early 20s, and we were really aware that there wasn't anything out there that we wanted to go to. So why complain about it? Let's create it. So I think, you know, I think it would be lovely. I mean, I would love to sit here and say, God, yes, we started it all. But I mean, I'm not that arrogant.
Do you think it's much harder for people starting festivals now?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think, you know, this, like you were saying, you know, you were hinting at, you know, only under 500, i.e. sort of temporary event notice events, is all we're going to be left with. I think those are easier than they probably have ever been before to host and organise, because you can now do it legally, and you don't get challenged. You're not sort of, you know, battling against criminal justice sort of bill attitude like you were in the 90s. No, I do think it's really hard to do, certainly if you want to do live music. I think, you know, it's
especially amplified.
Yeah, and you know, there's a number of reasons. I think at the moment it's cost, and there is a saturation in the market, and it's really sad to see, you know, the amount of independent festivals that are having to postpone or potentially cancel completely, and, you know, and stop. And we've got, you know, we're really looking at trying to come up with a solution for these festivals that doesn't involve the garden party. As I said, this isn't you know, this never has been an ego or a money trip for us. It's about, you know, really believing in this culture and its validity and its importance. Yeah, watch this space, because I think we want to announce an offer to the independent sector to try and help.
Because with a lot of the ones that are suspending, I really question whether they're going to have anything in the tank to try and come back next year. Even if the conditions are better, even if they get investment.
Well, this is, so I mean, I said watch this space, fuck it, you know, I might as well show some cards here. You know, one of our ideas is, as I said, we have a venue here. You've seen our storerooms, our boneyard and stuff. You know, we have a certain amount of resilience here. And, you know, I think when the going gets tough, you've got to work together. You know, divided you'll fall, together you'll stand, and all those, you know, perfectly valid cliches. And so I think we're looking at working out how to put an offer out to independents of whether they all club together, they keep their identities. This isn't under the fucking banner of garden party or any of that bollocks. They keep their identities, club together, do an event, whether it's a week long or a long weekend, over the same weekend, with our help and our back end support. Then I think we stand a chance against the big majors. But I think unless people start thinking a bit more radically, and play a different game to this, then it's going to get harder. And like I've using the analogy of a shark, it's like if you try and swim in the same pool as a shark, you know what's going to happen. Come up with your own swimming pool or or ocean, an ecosystem, and then you can be the best at that, and you can occupy that, and I think that's really how radical we've got to think now.
So the small festivals, you think, are struggling because they're competing against the I wouldn't have thought that the direct competition from the large events companies is such a problem for the 2,000 to 5,000 person event.
No, I think cost of materials is, but I think you've also got to remember who, in terms of the narrative in popular culture, and we've a whole generation have lost 2.5 years of their life, and that the effects of that we're still never really going to understand, or the academics and the people who study this, sociologists and anthropologists, whatever, aren't we're not going to actually have an explanation or the numbers on exactly what that's done for God knows how long, but it has made a massive difference. And you also have to remember that the majors, whether it's Glastonbury and the BBC, or it's LiveNation or Superstruct, they, with the marketing, with the media control that they have, they kind of write the book on what a festival is, or what this value exchange is. That has an effect as well. And yes, of course, there is no direct competition, but if like I was saying, before, when we weren't, representing a direct threat to their business, they were still willing to make life difficult for us, with exclusivities and stuff. And so, I think it isn't one thing that is making it hard for small independent festivals. It is a whole range of shit going on that altogether means that if you're going to make stuff work, you've got to be radical and come up with different ideas.
So how many crew are you planning on having for Roots this year?
Enough. I mean, when it comes to, because I remember, your question before, you're asking, how many stewards, volunteers, security, and whatever I have. I mean, it's in the thousands, and that it varies according to the number of venues and the size of your event. But it's a veritable army that you have to mobilise.
I would have thought, because it's a smaller event on this site, which can take a much larger event. You're really not limited in the same way you normally are, with having extra walkabouts, extra acts coming along just to play because they want to.
No, we're not. I mean, I think the only limitation is that actually, and this took us a long time to learn, is that every single person on the site that, has an impact on, and a cost, because, whether it's just water provision and loos and showers, or, in the case of if they're volunteers or crew or walkabouts, then there's food involved as well. There's footprint of space, which then means there's more fence line. So everything has, there is a big holistic picture you have to look at, where, on something like that. But no, the simple answer is we aren't so limited. And it's always been something I've been really proud that we've been able to do, is that if you bring something to the party, then that's the value exchange. And I think that's really important, for an event like ours.
No, that's something I really like about the Secret Garden Party, how you always see there's so much in the way of walkabouts and interesting things.
And and people and stuff that people haven't even asked for a free ticket for. I mean, I haven't seen them for a while, but for a couple of years there was a couple who used to turn up as Barbie and Ken, but they turn up in the boxes of Barbie and Ken with the cellophane across the front. I mean, a more impractical way to go to a festival, I don't know, but
No.
I mean, what a huge amount of effort
That's
to do.
the thing. Yeah, the people who buy tickets and then do a walkabout anyway. Those are the people who my jaw really dropped to, because they're clearly just completely out of the loop with organisers and crew.
But you know, and we try and reach out to all of them and say, you do realise that, you know, actually, you know, we let you in for free for what you're doing. But I think it's what's so awesome about, and what I think so important about parties like this is just seeing how amazing life and you know, and people's skills are, and watching people do what they do at the best of their ability, whether that is playing a guitar or mixing the records, or whether it's how fucking well they do a costume or a crocheting or you know, or cartwheels. You know, it does. You know, there are so many different things that we are all amazing at. It's just, I think it's wonderful to have a place where you can witness and celebrate that in all its glory.
Do you have any cabaret on coming up?
Funny enough, I think I can sort of let out as much in that our main show on Saturday night is essentially a cabaret show.
Ooh.
Now, not probably cabaret in the way that I think people now understand it, but the cabaret originated in the Weimar Republic, and it was a very countercultural place to sort of lampoon and soothe and congregate in times of real upheaval and hardship. But also a place where these were the first places where it didn't matter whether you were gay, straight, black or white, and there was a melting pot and a cultural sharing with a sort of lightness in the face of real adversity, and so I think cabaret in that form is a really strong thing. But yeah, there will be also more traditional forms of, stage lunacy. Or staged lunacy.
The line can be blurred. I mean, if someone's on a stage but it's unplanned.
Well, that's very much, that often happens.
Do you have much in the way of unplanned performances?
Well, I wouldn't know because they're not planned.
Well, you know from previous years.
Yeah, of course. There's huge amounts of stuff that happens, and you're like, and there's stuff that will happen, and I'll say to Jamie, who runs all the non-musical entertainment, and I say, God, did you know that was happening? He goes, yeah, no, that was planned. And then there'll be other times I was going, and he's like, what? No fucking idea. Nothing to do with us. So, yeah, you never know.
So, finally, do you have any other favourite festivals that aren't the Secret Garden Party? Any friend festivals that you'd love to send people who can't make it?
I mean, it's kind of really mean answer to this. The people who do want somewhere else to go is actually, I would say, our real friend festival that we are sort of twinned with, whatever, is Bazik in Cape Town. Yeah, and it's started. It's the love child and brain child of Nick, who started up Blade Festival in England, which was one of the best sort of amalgamation of the Free Party tribes that sort of went on in the early noughties. And it's something it's really close to my heart. But obviously it's in Cape Town, so that's not very helpful to anyone. And rather sadly, I'd almost say that the festivals I'd normally name have either been bought either recently or not so recently by multinationals, or have had to postpone and aren't doing it this year. But so I wish I could sort of make more positive noises other than that, other than saying we're not the only one out there, but
it starts to sound like
but
it.
it's feeling a little bit lonely out here on the left field.
I mean, honestly, if you want something on this scale, I guess Maui Wowie's starting to catch up with you now.
Yeah, and
'Cause-
good. I mean, probably Maui Wowie's going to be bigger than us maybe this year. I wouldn't, you know.
Honestly,
I mean, catching up, but
with their rate of growth, and if you're only going for 5,000, they'll be trying.